What happens when a brutal murder in a small town goes on for almost 30 years with no one being caught? We look into the scary case of Mandy Stavik in this video. Mandy was a young woman who went missing and was later found dead, leaving her community searching for answers. In what way did this terrible case play out, and what finally brought justice after all these years? Come with us as we look into the scary story of Mandy Stavik and her never-ending search for the truth that captivated a country. The terrible story of Mandy Stavik is one of the few documented incidents in the history of true crime in the United States that has evoked as much emotion and curiosity as it has. Her disappearance and subsequent murder in 1989 left a lasting mark on the lives of those who knew her and horrified the little village of Everson, Washington, where she was a resident before her death. This video digs into the heartbreaking facts of the Mandy Stavik case, examining the investigation, the impact on the community, and the eventual settlement that gave justice to a case that had haunted the region for decades. The case had been following Mandy Stavik for decades. A young woman named Mandy Stavik, who resided in the quaint little of Everson, Washington, was a bright and promising young lady. Mandy was a senior in high school who was recognized for her commitment to her studies and her passion for running. She was born on February 12, 1971, and she actively participated in her school activities. During her time as a cross-country runner, she was held in high esteem in her community. She was considered as an exemplary student and was a friend to a great number of people. On November 24, 1989, Mandy traveled to the rural region close to her house in order to go for a run. In spite of the fact that she had followed this routine numerous times in the past, she would never go back to it this time. The fact that she did not return home caused her family to become anxious, and they filed a missing person application. Initial search efforts concentrated on the immediate vicinity. However, as the days went by without any indication that Mandy had been located, the situation became increasingly precarious. In a short amount of time, the hunt for Mandy Stavik evolved into a more extensive operation that included the participation of local law officers, volunteers, and even search and rescue organizations. For a number of weeks, despite the tremendous efforts that were made, there was no trace of Mandy found. Before the body of Mandy was found by the searchers in a remote region of the Nooksack River on December 2, 1989, the searchers had not conducted their investigation. The body of the victim had been concealed beneath a log and partially submerged in the river after she had been brutally murdered. The town was rocked to its core when the body of Mandy was found under some circumstances. The heinousness of her murder was extremely uncomfortable, and the fact that she had been targeted in a setting that was supposed to be secure and familiar further added to the anguish of the situation. The inquiry quickly became one of the most high-profile and difficult cases in the region, and the police were left with very few clues to work with. Within the aftermath of the murder of Mandy Stavik, investigators were confronted with a great deal of difficulty. Neither of the apparent suspects were present, and the crime scene had only a small amount of evidence. The circumstances surrounding the incident, particularly the fact that Mandy had been subjected to sexual assault, gave rise to the hypothesis that the offender was either someone who had a profound familiarity with the region or someone who had been following her movements. The investigation centered on conducting interviews with area locals, looking into any possible leads, and analyzing Mandy's relationship with her friends and acquaintances. The administration of law enforcement had a difficult time making meaningful headway despite their best efforts. The absence of tangible proof, in conjunction with the close-knit nature of the community, made it challenging to identify any potential culprits. The introduction of DNA testing was one of the significant developments that occurred during the investigation. In contrast, the field of forensic DNA analysis was still in its infancy throughout the latter part of the 1980s and the early 1990s. Due to the fact that the technology that was available at the time was not as advanced as it is today, the investigators were forced to rely on different tactics in order to collect evidence and construct their case. Investigators continued to work relentlessly, following up on every lead and re-interviewing witnesses, despite the limits of the equipment that they were using. However, despite the fact that the investigation eventually became a cold case, the community's will to see that Mandy was brought to justice never wavered. Everson, a very tiny town, was drastically altered as a result of the murder of Mandy Stavik. The town, which had previously been characterized by a sense of safety and tranquility, was left in a state of disarray as a result of the catastrophe. Residents were terrified, and a great number of individuals started to worry about their own safety in a community that had previously been regarded as a tranquil and secure place. In addition, the case had a significant impact on Mandy's family. The loss of their cherished daughter was left to her parents, Robert and Marcia Stavik, who were left to come to terms with the situation. They became ardent champions for justice, working alongside law enforcement and supporting efforts to keep the case in the public view. They were very proactive in their advocacy. The depth of their sorrow was evident, and they were unyielding in their commitment to identifying the individual who was responsible for the death of Mandy. There was a substantial contribution made by the media in maintaining the public's awareness of the Mandy Stavik case. Because of the tremendous coverage that the tale received from both local and national news channels, the case became a focal point of discussions regarding criminal justice and the justice system. The media coverage not only contributed to the continuation of the investigation, but it also increased the amount of pressure that was placed on law enforcement to solve the case and bring the offender to justice. The investigation was kept alive by the resolve of the Stavik family and the persistent efforts of law enforcement. Though the years passed without any meaningful headway being made in the case, the investigation continued. In 2016, the investigation was given a new lease on life when detectives started re-examining evidence using more sophisticated DNA testing procedures. They were able to conduct a more precise analysis of the evidence that had been gathered in the past because of this technology. A suspect named Timothy B. Smith was identified as the person whose DNA was found at the crime scene in 2017. This was the moment that the breakthrough occurred. Mandy's murder occurred at a period when Smith, a convicted sexual offender with a history of violent offenses, was residing in the neighborhood where the incident took place. Using DNA evidence, Smith was able to establish a connection to the crime scene, which ultimately led to his arrest and eventual confession. The procedures of Timothy Smith's trial began in 2018, and the community and the media alike were paying careful attention to the proceedings. The confession made by Smith, in conjunction with the DNA evidence, created a solid case against him. Mandy Stavik was brutally murdered and sexually assaulted by Smith, who admitted his guilt during the course of the trial. In his testimony, he supplied information about the crime that could have only been known by the person who committed the crime, which further confirmed his guilt. Timothy Smith was found guilty of first-degree murder, rape, and other offenses in connection with the death of Mandy Stavik in December of 2018. He received a sentence of life in jail without the possibility of release following his conviction. After waiting for justice for over 3 decades, the Stavik family and the community finally felt like they had reached a point of resolution when they were found guilty. The tragic story of Mandy Stavik serves as a powerful reminder of the destructive effects that violent crime can have on both persons and communities, both individually and collectively. The brutality of her murder and the length of time it took for justice to be served brought to light the significance of perseverance in the course of criminal investigations, as well as the role that scientific breakthroughs play in the field of forensic technology. Changes have also been made to the way that law enforcement agencies handle cold cases and make use of DNA evidence as a result of the narrative of Mandy Stavik, in order to demonstrate the significance of preserving evidence and making use of the most recent technological advancements in the pursuit of justice. This case has been presented as an example. In spite of the fact that the case has been resolved, many who knew and loved Mandy Stavik continue to pay tribute to her memory. Her narrative is a testament to the impact that she had on individuals who were in her immediate vicinity, and the town of Everson has found ways to memorialize her because of this. Her legacy is one of resiliency and fortitude, and her tale continues to serve as a potent reminder of the significance of seeking justice for those who have been victims of horrific crime. The case of Mandy Stavik is one that is both tragic and triumphant. It is characterized by a heinous crime and a resolution that has been anticipated for a very long time. The murder of her caused the small town of Everson to be shaken, and it left an indelible mark on both her family and the community. The pursuit of justice was finally successful as a result of tenacity, advancements in forensic science, and the unyielding commitment of those involved. The story of Mandy Stavik served as a powerful illustration of the resilience of the human spirit and the determination to seek justice. At the same time that it serves as a potent illustration of the influence that a single person can have on those who are in their immediate vicinity, it serves as a reminder of the significance of never giving up especially in the face of overwhelming odds. To this day, her legacy endures, not only as a victim but also as a representation of resiliency and optimism in the struggle against criminal activity. If you found this story both gripping and moving, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more in-depth explorations of real-life mysteries and true crime. Hit the notification bell to stay updated on our latest videos and never miss a story that captivates and informs.